Huh?
They haven't been hearing you. Start again.
Okay.
Awesome.
Now can you hear us?
Can you guys hear us? We need to know because we just started explaining things and apparently you don't know what's going on. So make sure you let us know what's happening. So once again, we're making sugar cookies for Valentine's Day. We're using heart cookie cutters to make it Valentine's themed. But if you don't have heart cookies or you hate Valentine's Day, that's totally fine. You can still bake with us. We'll try to give alternatives when we can. I've just started, but Catherine will explain from the beginning how to get going on your sugar cookie dough. Hopefully you can hear us this time.
Sorry, we have technical difficulties.
Alright, so to start, before we even start mixing anything in a bowl, you want to preheat your oven to 325 degrees. And then you're going to line cookie sheets with parchment paper. Make sure you're using parchment paper, not wax paper, because wax paper will burn and it might start a fire. That would be bad. From there, we're going to take a large bowl and we're going to put 1 cup and 4 tablespoons of butter in it. You want your butter at room temperature, but if you didn't leave it out to soften, you could pop it in the microwave for 10 to 15 seconds. I wouldn't put it in for more than that, just to soften it a little to make it easier to mix.
By the way, I cut my butter into little squares because it's easier to mix with your hands from small squares. That makes first.
Are you beating the butter first?
Yeah.
Okay. So we're going to beat our butter until it's fluffy. If you're doing this by hand and not with an electric mixer, you can use a wooden spoon or you can actually just use your hands like Emily's doing to mix it up. You can try a whisk, but more than likely it's just going to get all like lumped and stuck in the whisk and not do anything.
This might take a minute. The other reason I like using my hands is that the warmth of my hands kind of warms up the butter a little bit and helps it get squishy faster.
We like squishy.
I do.
Is that a technical term?
Yeah.
Professional secretary.
Today's baking term is squishy.
The letter of today is S.
I was just going to say.
Okay. This
How's
is
it
as good-
looking?
This is
Alright.
as good as it's gonna
Yeah.
get. And now my hands are like this, so. Yep.
Once you're done this part, you might want to wash your hands and wash any butter that's stuck on your hands off. If you're going to do that, use warm water because it'll actually help melt the butter off your hands. If you're not, I mean, that's fine. It just might make it hard to hold any of your utensils.
Yeah.
You can also just wipe them off with paper towel. That will help.
Okay. I'm ready.
From there, we're going to add a cup of sugar, just white sugar. And we're going to add that, we're going to actually just mix it until it's well combined and it just looks really light and fluffy in the bowl. Again, you can try a whisk for this part, but it may all just get stuck in the whisk.
This spatula is really floopy. Today's second
There's
word of the day
another
is
technical
floopy.
term, floopy.
Oh no. Okay, I'm just gonna use my hands again because
You can also use your hands for this part.
I'm probably just gonna use my hands most of this video just to prepare you. I did wash my hands. Don't worry.
But you don't have to use your hands if you don't want to.
Don't lick your hands in between. Okay. Okay, I'm ready. I'm not gonna wash them. This is
So once we're done that, we're going to add a whole egg and we're going to add an egg yolk. To get the eggs separated, just to get the yolk, the easiest way to do that, I'm gonna move this, is to crack the egg, and then you can either,
I actually don't know how to do this, so I use my hands, so.
yeah, I was gonna say, and then you can either run it through your hands and the white will all fall off, or you can use the shells. You can see what Emily's doing is she's got half of it sitting in the shell, and you can kind of just pass it gently between the shells, and the white should drain off. But the other option is you can actually just pour the egg into your fingers, and the white will just fall between your fingers and leave the yolk in your hand. So now we're going to add the yolk to the bowl. And we're going to add 2 teaspoons of vanilla. Two.
Okay.
And we're going to mix that until it's all well combined. This part's going to get a little liquidy, so it might be easier to use a whisk than your hands. Maybe.
You're me, and you've already committed, so this is already happening. You're probably right, though.
Probably.
Probably. I just spilled all my vanilla. No.
Oh no, that's the vanilla, baby!
It's all gone. I don't have any for icing now. Shoot. Okay, well,
Ice, baby.
we can't.
We will deal with that when we
We'll
get there.
cross that bridge when we come to it.
How's it looking?
It's looking good. I just
Okay.
need to. I'm gonna scrape down the sides a few times because I think it's almost done. And I want to make sure that all of the bits get incorporated into one homogeneous mixture.
So regardless of whether you're doing this by hand or if you're using an electric mixer, you want to make sure you scrape down the sides, because what usually happens is like bits of butter and even the sugar and stuff will ride up the sides of your bowl, and if you don't watch, they will not get incorporated, and you'll actually be missing some of your butter or your sugar in the mixture.
Just washing my hands. They're really, really buttery.
From this point, we actually do want to get another bowl, so if you don't have one out, I would recommend getting it ready now. Wipe up your vanilla.
Okay. Okay.
Okay,
Ready.
so now you want to take a separate bowl, and you want to measure 3 cups of flour into that bowl.
By the way, you notice we have these nice containers. If you are part of our Hub Harvest cooking program, then you got a baking package earlier this week. If you are interested in being part of that, you should check out our bio and find out how to get involved. Okay. This is...
Not working? There you go.
Ha, I got it. No one can tell, but I actually bake a lot. I'm just, you know, it's our first live stream. We don't know what we're doing. I mean, yeah, we always know what we're doing. Obviously, we're perfect.
We're perfect.
Never any problems.
We never make
YC
mistakes.
never has any issues. We always, everything goes perfectly smoothly. Okay.
You're going to add 1.5 teaspoons of baking powder. Make sure it's baking powder. What?
I don't know, is it?
It might
Someone
be.
comment and tell us, is half a tablespoon the same as 1 teaspoon?
1.5 teaspoons.
A quarter tablespoon is the same as a teaspoon. I think there's 4 teaspoons. I don't know. Who knows? We're just going to do... Wait, what did you say again?
1.5 teaspoons.
So we want 1.5 teaspoons.
Thank you, James.
1.5. Just for those that are watching right now, I decided I would mic up. 1.5 teaspoons.
This is James's voice. Those of you that don't know who that man is whispering to you. It's James.
You are about to find out.
You want to make sure for this part that you are using baking powder, not baking soda.
What's the difference?
Baking soda will make your cookies fluff up really high.
Yeah.
Baking powder will make them expand and rise at the same time because baking powder has both baking soda and other things to make it do both at the same time.
That's amazing. I had no idea.
Yeah, also it tastes really weird if you just put it in by itself.
Yes.
Sometimes when you eat things and you have that weird aftertaste, that's somebody using too much baking soda.
Which is also why you want to make sure you're using teaspoons and not tablespoons, because tablespoons of baking powder
difference?
will make them very bitter.
Yes, they will be weird and puffy and spread out too much.
And
So
they will
that
not taste
explains
good.
my flat one-pan cookies.
Well, they'd be fluffy and like they wouldn't hold their
Flat.
shape anymore.
Yeah.
But when they cool, they actually like go pretty flat.
Yeah. Oh, they fall apart.
They
Yeah.
push to nothing. Yeah.
And if you try to make this shape, they'll just be like
A giant
a
circle.
blob.
Yeah.
So really, if I used the heart-shaped press and I did that, it would look more like a normal heart, which doesn't look like.
Well, I don't know
At
if
all.
it would look biologically the same as a real heart. But I have seen cookies that are real hearts and they're super cool.
That's awesome.
We don't have that cookie cutter because they're very expensive, but it is cool. If you want to do that, do it.
The last thing you want to add to this is half a teaspoon of salt.
That bag looks like it's more than half a teaspoon. Would I be correct with that, Emma?
It is. We gave you extra stuff so that if you want to replicate this or if you make a mistake and you have to restart, then you have the ingredients available. Or if you're me and you just spill the entire container, then you don't have that anymore. So, would you say half?
Half a teaspoon.
Okay. I'm using salted butter, so I'm going to do a little less than half just so
Yes.
it's not too salty. Okay.
So now we're going to actually take a whisk and we're going to mix this all together really well because we want to make sure that the baking powder is mixed thoroughly through our flour.
Because that's the way we whisk it.
Yeah.
Whisk it up. Whisk it good. That's
It's always
okay.
good to
whisk it. Back to you, Emily.
It's always good to mix your separate bowls really well before you combine them, because when you mix flour into wet things, the water in the liquids will trigger gluten to develop, and if you overmix, the gluten will stretch out too much and it'll make things kind of chewy. So we mix really well in our separate stages so that when we put it together, we don't have to overmix to make everything combine. Okay.
So once that's thoroughly mixed, we're going to add about half of our flour mixture to the butter and everything else in that bowl.
Half.
Yeah, about half. So that would be about a cup and a half, maybe a little more. It doesn't have to be perfect.
And then we
And-
just start mixing?
Yeah, you just start mixing it. You don't want to overmix it. And make sure that you scrape the sides of your bowl and the bottom, just that all that flour gets mixed in there. Once your first half is starting to look mixed in,
I'm not quite there yet.
no. But once it starts to get mixed in and looking good, you can add the second half of the flour mixture to that bowl.
And Emily's gonna go back to using her hands because she's impatient and it's faster with my hands.
I get that.
Yes, I'm using my hands.
Sometimes for cookie dough, it is actually way easier to make sure everything gets combined if you use your hands as well when you
Yes.
get to this stage.
And this is not as much of a concern during COVID, but if you get your nails done a lot, I don't recommend you doing this because sometimes fake nails and bits of shellac like to fall into dough.
Yes.
And then your family will have a nasty surprise. So wear some gloves or make someone else do it. Or both, I guess. I don't know.
So you want to keep doing this till everything's well combined, but you want to make sure not to over mix it because as Emily said, it will start to become chewy if we mix it too much.
See how it's in clumps? Instead of just mixing until it comes into a ball, I'm going to now just press the clumps into a ball so that I'm not, as Catherine said, not over mixing. Okay.
Okay. Ta-da! So now, once your dough looks like that, you're gonna take about a quarter of your dough, again, it doesn't have to be exact, and we're gonna start rolling our dough out on our counter with a rolling pin, or if you don't have a rolling pin, a jar or like anything cylindrical will work.
Empty wine bottles are,
Yeah.
just make sure they're clean.
Yeah.
Hey, there's parents too. I don't know. Okay, I need space.
Even a drinking glass will work if you have to in a pinch.
I'm just making room to roll out all of my dough.
So I just put a note in the live chat that if people do have questions, I'm now monitoring the YouTube live chat. They can put those questions in there, and we'll be sure to pass them along.
Whose hair is there?
That only counts if you're watching it right now.
Yeah.
Because if you watch this later today,
You can always text us.
you can text them.
If you're in the Hub Harvest program, you already know how to reach us.
There you go.
If you don't know how to reach us, just send a message to the Facebook or Instagram profile, YFC London, or you can email programs@yfclondon.com, and the person who answers those emails is sometimes me and Catherine. Okay.
So when you roll out your dough, you do want to spread some of your flour, like the extra flour, on the counter, just so that it doesn't stick to your counter. And you'll also want to sprinkle just a tiny bit on top of your ball of dough when you set it down, so that it doesn't stick to your rolling pin. So you want to roll your dough until it's about a quarter of an inch thick. And this doesn't have to be perfect. If you like thick cookies, you can roll it thicker, but they will take a little longer to bake. And they will also be a little bit softer when you take them out.
Now, I'm really bad at gauging what a quarter inch looks like.
Me too.
Okay. I think that's...
That looks about good.
Okay. Great.
Once you've done that, you're just going to start taking your cookie cutters and you're going to cut whatever shapes you want. We have heart cookie cutters. If you don't have heart cookie cutters or cookie cutters at all, cups will work. This.
I'm trying not to interrupt you.
Yeah. Cups will work to make like just plain round ones, or like mason jars, lids. Really anything could work. You could even cut shapes with a knife if you really wanted to. And you'll see we have different sizes. So we have some really little ones like this, and then we've got like some really big ones. If you do tiny, like bite size, you won't want to cook them all at the same time, because the tiny ones will cook much faster. And if you're cooking them with the big ones, they may start to burn.
Oh, sorry. Yes. Rebecca's doing this activity in the other side of the cafe, and we forgot to give her something, so excuse us.
Rebecca's making sure that this actually works. So far, she is showing that it does.
Yeah. By the way, By the way, you'll notice when I'm rolling that I roll from the center out to top, bottom, and side. I'm doing that to make sure that my piece is like flat with all the same height. So I roll like, pretend this is a circle of dough. I start in the middle and I go up, down, side, and then I turn it and I keep doing that. And that just makes sure that it's even.
You also want to make sure, like, you don't have to be a quarter of an inch thick, but regardless of the thickness of your cookies, you want to make sure that they are all roughly the same thickness, so that they all cook evenly. Because otherwise, again, if some are like much thinner than others, they may cook too fast. They might start to burn. And you really don't want burnt cookies.
Okay, so the way I did that was I'm cut out another big one, and then I took one of the small ones and cut out the middle. I'll do it on the tray this time because it was actually really hard for me to lift that with the middle missing. It's like not as sturdy. Okay, so I'm saving the little one for later because I'm not going to bake my little ones in the same tray as my big ones. Put it on, take a smaller one, and poke a hole in the middle. And we'll set the little ones aside for later. I'm done like half of my dough.
Cool.
I made
these
really
ones
big
are like
ones,
really big.
so yeah,
Yeah.
I don't need to roll as many, which is fine. I might do some small ones next, actually.
You don't have to do all your cookies with one cookie cutter either if you have other options. Like you can do different shapes at the same time on the same cookie tray. You just want to make sure they're roughly the same size so that they cook evenly. Are you going to do the next size down?
Yeah. I'll do the next size down next.
And you can play around. You can do different things like Emily did. You could even like do half. Like if you wanted to do 2 halves of a heart, you could cut them in half before putting them on the tray. You just also want to make sure that they are 1/2 inch to 1 inch apart on the cookie sheet so that they don't all bake together, and then you'll have like just a chain of hearts or whatever shape you're using.
Blobs.
Or blobs.
I'm trying to do some cookie cutter Tetris to make optimum use of my dough.
Yes.
Because rolling out dough forever is not as fun as it looks.
It's really not.
No. I'm not doing a very good job, but you get it. You know what I'm doing. Yeah? Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, mix it in with the, yeah, okay, good question. So if you have little tidbits, I've been doing it without saying anything. You can add it to your fresh bit of dough, and that's actually better than adding all of your rolled out bits at the same time, because like we said, mixing the liquid and the flour together will cause gluten to develop, and so that also happens when you're rolling, so you don't want to roll too much. Okay. This is the most exciting part for Catherine because she just has to wait for me to,
I just get to watch.
yeah.
Well, we do have some people cheering you on.
Great.
Saying, roll away, Emily. You're doing great. Cut away, Emily. Fabulous.
I feel like
So-
you're making this up.
No.
Okay.
We have some great comments coming through, and it might be from Calais, but hey, Calais is watching. And Calais,
Hi,
are you
Calais.
baking cookies? We're just wondering, Calais. Like, are you following along? Callie's new to our team, by the way. If you're wondering who she is, you'll get to meet her in the future. And Amy Lala is also on board here, so
I think Amy's baking with her daughters. I could be wrong.
is that true, Amy? If you
She
wanna
mentioned
chat
they're
in.
getting really into baking and cooking these days. Yeah, this one.
Yeah, that one.
Thank you.
I got a little bit behind on my streaming. According to my video, you're still rolling, but
Oh. I've been cutting out cookies for quite a while.
And we still have more to
I
go.
might be missing a few comments here. Oh, Callie does say, I'm not baking, but I am starving. Please save me some.
There will be some, yes, for the
There will be
staff.
lots.
Although I did promise my husband I'd bring home a few because he was really sad that I made a practice batch earlier this week to make sure this video went smoothly, although hasn't gone perfect the whole time. I did spill my vanilla, but he was really sad when we ran out of samples. Okay, I'm gonna pop this in the oven. How long?
You're going to put them in the oven for 10 to 13 minutes. Now, if you are doing smaller ones, you will want to bake them for a little bit less time, maybe 5 to 8 minutes instead. It just will really depend on the size of your cookies. But if you are using our cookie cutters, the biggest 2 sizes, I would bake for the full 10 to 13 minutes.
I need more trays.
You need more tray.
I do.
They're all over there.
When baking cookies, do you
Yes.
just like chuck them in the oven, set a timer? You say 10 to 15. I want to make sure they're done. I'll just walk away then for 15. Maybe even if we save, I'll put them in for 18.
Well, I think
What
if it gives you a range like 10 to 15, if you're used to using your oven, you'll probably know
Yeah.
if your oven's runs really hot, because every oven's different. But if you're not sure, I would go on the safe side, especially with sugar cookies. They'll be more baked than they appear. So they'll still look pretty pale on the top. You just look on the edge, it'll look like a slight golden color on the edges, and the top will still be pretty pale. So it's better to go a little under than a little over
Yeah.
with sugar cookies.
My first time making a recipe, I usually go for 1 to 2 minutes less than the minimum cook time, because you can always add a couple extra minutes, but once they're overcooked, they're overcooked. Like,
Yeah.
you can't take away time.
And especially if you're doing really small ones, they're gonna take a
Yes.
lot less time to bake. So then you might want to even do less than the 10 minutes maybe. I don't know what size the recipe assumes we're using, but
Yeah. I would say for the smaller ones, though, you'd probably want to do only 5 to 8 minutes. I mean, I've got a recipe for sugar cookies that I use at home. I think it's 7 to 9 minutes. And after my first batch, when the oven's first heating up, because I'm impatient and also forget to turn it on at the beginning, I can put them in for 5 to 6 minutes and they come out like perfect.
So you're making a bunch of smaller cookies. That's because you have less dough left. Is that what you're?
and because I already had some, and so since I need to do a different pan than my big ones, I don't want to waste the pan space, so I'm going to use the rest of my cookie dough to make similarly sized cookies so that all of these bake fairly evenly at the same time. I do need to go get another baking pan though, because I don't have it. They're on the other side of the kitchen. I'll be right back.
The joys of COVID.
So Catherine, did you say you had a song for us that you wanted to sing?
What's that?
Did you say you had a song for us that you
Not at all. You don't want to hear me
No,
sing.
don't you normally sing when you cook? Like,
No.
No?
No.
Okay.
What do you think we are, Cinderella?
Well, I was thinking yes.
I'm thinking you're
But
wrong.
please don't start singing and inviting mice and that into the kitchen because the health code doesn't work.
The health unit doesn't like that.
There we go. There we go.
I do sing when I cook, but only when I'm alone.
Come on, Emily.
Nope.
What's your favorite song to sing when you're cooking?
It honestly depends on my mood. It's just whatever's in my head that day. I don't have like a baking repertoire for songs. It's just whatever's on my heart is what I sing.
So if you were to sing right now, and I'm not saying that you are, but if you were to sing right now, what song would be on your heart to sing?
Well, I'm trying to think now. This morning I was singing Stephen Curtis Chapman's Fingerprints of God, which is like a 90s
Love that
Christian
song.
inspirational song. Yeah, so if
Yeah, I
you
love
grew
that
up
song.
going to church in the 90s, you know exactly what song this is. If you don't, I'm sort of half-heartedly encourage you to look it up because the music video is probably terrible, but the song is actually really cute. And no, I will not be singing it for you today, James.
I try, folks. I try.
Okay, so
You have a little bit of dough there still.
yeah. Oh yeah.
What if I wanted to make a sugar cookie snowman? Is that possible? Like just to make it 3-dimensional? 3 balls on top of each other?
You'll
Is
be
that possible?
disappointed.
Don't think so.
Yeah. If you wanted to make an edible 3D shape, then I would suggest you make actually marzipan dough, which is a lot harder to make, but would give you the desired results. You could also make truffles and then just
Stack
like
them?
stack them, yeah, with like, well, we'll
Sounds
use
good.
this dough to show you. So I need something.
You need some.
This is what we call improv in the baking area.
Where? Well, they don't have what I want, but.
It's also how we occupy
Melon
time
baller?
while
Okay.
the cookies are cooking.
So if you wanted to, you could make truffles or cake pops this way. So you would roll your dough like in circles. This is a really big toothpick. The cafe does everything really big, so I don't have any normal toothpicks. So pretend this is a normal toothpick, and you would stick it in like that. And then you would do your next layer. Actually, might make this layer a bit bigger. I'm definitely overdeveloping my gluten right now to show you guys this, but that's okay.
Just to let you
We
know,
have lots of other
Janine,
good
Janine has
cookies.
also joined your baking.
Hi, Janine. Janine Machine. I miss you. Okay. So you do the base. Then you would skewer your snowman. It's a little bit murderous, but
Just a little bit.
a little bit. And then do this, and then you can like bake it, or just depending on what you're doing, you could dip it in like melted chocolate or something, and then once it's been dipped, you can take this out and like let it harden like that. And you make a snowman. But if you try to bake this as a sugar cookie,
You're gonna have a sugar cookie puddle.
yeah, and like even if you could keep it in its shape, the outside would be crunchy and the middle would still be dough,
Yeah.
because the heat wouldn't be able to like get into it fast enough. So you don't really want to do that. Okay, one tiny bit left. What? Do I what? We're gonna make the icing once the cookies come out of the oven, because we do want to let the cookies cool before we put the frosting on. Otherwise, it'll just melt right off the cookie.
Yeah. It makes a big mess.
Mm-hmm. I'm gonna check my cookies. Oh,
I would say
they're looking
not
good.
quite.
They're not quite done.
Yeah.
Okay.
They don't smell done.
No. Yes.
Like you actually can smell them as they bake, and
Such a good smell.
if you do this a lot, you recognize what done smells like.
So yeah, I've heard from someone, they say that when your baking is done, that's when you can smell it. But that's not necessarily always true, because you can smell meat cooking in an oven and it's not done just because you smell it. So is baking different in that way?
Not necessarily. Like even if you look at like I make cake or cupcakes, sometimes I can smell them for the last 20 minutes of their bake time. If they bake for say almost an hour, which I've got some recipes that do, I can smell it for the last 20 minutes, but they're definitely not done. If I took them out of the oven, they would still be liquid. So it's got to do with like as it does start to bake, the scent from whatever you've used, like if it's chocolate, so the cocoa powder or whatever will start to release. And I think it very much depends on like what flavor you've done. Like I find chocolate stuff you smell faster than vanilla.
The bakery I used to work at, the owner could smell when things were actually done, but it was because she'd been baking for 25 years and she made the same products all the time. So the only way she really knew was just from experience of making the same thing. They do smell a certain way when they're cooked, but it's really hard to tell if you're not used to making that thing all the time. Oh. I better turn on the other oven.
Is it hot enough?
Yeah.
Okay.
Wait.
Maybe? 325.
Yeah, it's hard with these ones.
Yeah.
Okay.
Are you guys talking amongst yourselves?
Yeah, I was gonna tell you something. No, I can't remember. You shouldn't, but everybody does. So you're not supposed to eat raw flour or raw eggs. That's why, like, I know there was a trend. I don't know if it's still a trend right now of making like edible cookie dough and edible slime. You'll notice with those recipes, if they're good recipes, they don't have egg or flour in them because you're not supposed to eat those things raw. A lot of people do, like a lot of like people who work out put raw eggs in their smoothies and stuff, but there is a little bit of a risk of getting sick. So I wouldn't recommend it unless that's something you already do and it's something you feel safe doing. But we're not gonna do it.
We're not going to advise you to do it.
Yeah.
But
Even though I do that.
at your own risk.
At your own risk. Don't blame us if you eat a bunch of cookie dough and get sick. Also, like, just eating a lot of this
Will
cooked
make
or
you
not,
sick.
will make you sick because
So
it's
you
sugar.
do it, but you're telling us not to do it.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. Do as I say, not as I do. Except for I didn't do it in front of you, so you can't even say that I do it. You have no proof besides my word. My word against yours, so.
No witnesses. And
Well, there's
forever.
probably
No
few
witnesses that
but-
you just said it on camera.
I
Like.
said it, I didn't do it, so. Yeah. But you shouldn't do it.
So while you're waiting for things to cook, is it like waiting for paint to dry? It won't cook
Yeah.
and you wait for it?
No.
Well, normally if we weren't live streaming, I would do my dishes while I'm waiting for my cookies to bake, because then when they're done, I can just sit and enjoy my cookies and focus on doing the frosting, because like the frosting you want to pay attention to and you want lots of space to like get all your stuff out. So I usually clean up in between rounds, but because we don't think that you want to watch us do dishes, we're not doing that part. Also, we would have to move all of our cameras over to the dish pit, which we probably don't want to do. But
Seems like a lot of work
Yeah.
just for some
Well,
dishes.
and my batteries kind of went dead on the other two cameras.
right, so you can't
Yeah, I
anyways.
really can't.
I did want to know from people, my favorite thing when the sugar cookies come straight out of the oven, I know you're supposed to frost them, but one thing I always love to do is have a plain, freshly
Yeah.
baked cookie with a cup of orange pico tea. And I wanted to know if anyone who's watching has like a favorite thing that they like to have with their cookies.
Yeah, so put it in the comments. What do you like to have with your cookies? Put in the comments and I'll share that with Emily and Catherine. I'm hearing from behind me from Cooking Rebecca that she likes milk.
Nice.
I usually have soy milk myself.
I'm not allowed to drink soy milk, so I have oat milk.
I was gonna say oat milk's pretty good.
Oat
Yeah.
milk's pretty good, yeah.
Yeah, I can't drink soy milk either.
No. And I like
Or
oat
real
milk because
milk.
it has the least calories and the most fiber out of all of the substitute milk options.
It's also the most like actual milk.
Yeah, and it's the most eco-friendly, and we can like Canadian source it as much as
Yes.
possible, which is awesome because Canadians are really good at growing oats, not so good at growing almonds.
So we have a comment from Janine. She says that she likes to have in her other hand an empty hand to hold the next cookie. Way to go, Janine.
Totally
Proud of you.
fair.
Love it.
Totally fair.
Yes.
That's also my husband. He'll stack all
Yes.
of them and then one in his mouth, and then use the other to like open the door to leave.
Yes, my husband has been
The same.
known to do that.
Yeah.
Comes in with like 6 cookies in one hand, and I'm
Yeah.
like,
What are you doing?
I guess we're not sharing with people.
Yeah. No.
Oh, she also says second option, milk is good too.
No, it's
So,
good.
yeah.
Dipping or drinking on the side. What do people feel?
Ooh, do you dip or do you eat? I choose not to dip because I don't like chunkies in my milk.
Yeah.
I like to take a bite and then a sip. And that's kind of how I do it.
Fair technique. Yeah.
Mm.
I like dipping, but very quickly because it gets soggy really fast.
There's just something about dunking your cookies.
Yeah. Same with dunking donuts. Dunking a donut in a cup of coffee. So good. They're almost done.
Yes.
I feel like 1 minute probably.
Well, we did have one request. Calais wondering, she says, so how about some dance moves while we wait?
How about now?
Well,
I mean, I've kicked youth out of the kitchen for dancing because it's not really appropriate to dance in the
there's
kitchen.
nothing sharp right now, so I believe our kitchen space is safe. As long as there's no flour on the floor that you might slip on, it's not
I'm not
liquid.
dancing.
But I think we're going back actually even to an interview that we had at one point with Emily. Where
I
Emily
remember
did
that.
disclose that she is a dancer
Back
and
in
has
the
dance
summer.
moves, and she was showing us her dance hands.
Okay, I will do if someone comments a specific move or, specific move, because I would also require some music.
So a specific dance move, and Catherine will provide the music by singing it.
I am not singing.
Or someone could even just give me a song, and then in my head I'll know that this is how the song goes probably. And I'll be able to do it, but I really would rather not.
They're not
See if we get
browning,
any
but they
thoughts
really
of her
like
dances.
They really
smell.
look done. Yeah,
Like, yeah.
I can turn them up a tiny bit.
Okay. It might be these ovens.
I'm getting a lot of flour on my mask today because I keep taking it out of from under my apron.
Does wearing a mask help protect you from inhaling flour?
Actually, it can. Inhaling too much flour is really
Have you
bad for
tried?
you.
Yeah.
So actually, people who work at flour mills do have protective gear because inhaling flour can cause respiratory problems. So yeah, sometimes
Just
I'm
like
just doing it
introducing any
because I'm
foreign
getting
object
into
to your
Catherine's
lungs.
zone and I don't want to make her unsafe. But yeah, if we were using a lot of flour, then I probably would.
They done?
They're
So
pretty
Kelly's asking for a moonwalk.
Okay, but you can't see it, but I can do it.
Well, I can.
You have to
have
take
a
my word
counter
for
in
it,
the
though.
way.
I can maneuver the camera.
Okay.
Actually, once you get the cookie set up, I'm going to get the other camera. I should have enough battery life to get another camera going, and then we'll do a moonwalk zoom.
Okay, I do have to take my shoes off. So, what do you think?
I mean, I can see this one's looking a little golden. I don't know.
One more
They're
minute?
not super golden brown.
We'll do
like-
another.
They still look uncooked.
Yeah. We'll just do another minute. Maybe I should
We'll do
practice while you're
another
getting
minute
set
while
up.
Emily does the moonwalk.
Yeah, it's hard in these boots. And I'm also
Yeah.
wearing insoles because I'm old now. So moonwalking in insoles is not something that I think Michael Jackson really foresaw anyone trying to do, but I'll try. I'm just going to practice because it's been a while. This is also kind of... This is really weird, but I'm going to put some flour on the floor because it'll make it more slippery. Like a gymnast, but
With chalk.
with chalk.
Yeah.
Are you ready?
Not quite yet. We're just going to get over
I got all excited. You know, I'm not getting paid extra for these dance moves.
All right, so we are focused on you now.
Okay. You ready? Okay, here we go. Yeah? Okay.
Yes.
This is as good as it's gonna get. Which is like, this is my whole life practicing. My dad taught this to me when I was 6, and this is as good as I could do it.
Yay! All right. All right.
Oh my gosh. I never know what I'm gonna do when I come into work.
It's very
I thought I was just gonna, but it has happened before. Often at our summer camps, there is a dance party at least twice. Wash my hands. I'm pretty sure they're done now.
They've
smell-
got to be like.
They smell.
I was gonna say they smell cooked. But some ovens, and I'm just gonna say this because some people might have ovens that don't do this. Some ovens, I find my cookies aren't always brown on the edges like they do in others. So sometimes your cookie will be cooked and it just doesn't look like it.
And you can always leave it on the pan for a while, and the heat from the pan will like
Continue to cook it.
yeah. I'm just gonna grab another one to cool them on.
Yeah.
You could also just put them on the counter, but there's a table there. Excuse me.
I see that.
I'm doing a wheelie with the baking pan tray so that I don't get all over the wires. Oh my gosh. Somebody was very efficient. Okay. So we want to show you how to frost. Excuse me. We want to show you how to frost, but we want our cookies to be cool first. So we're going to transfer our cookies to another pan so that they cool down faster. If you have plenty of time, you can always just leave them on the one you bake them on. Their sugar cookies cool pretty quickly.
When you transfer them, make sure you use a spatula because when they're warm, they will actually like just fall apart when you lift them.
Yeah, and you could burn yourself.
That too.
Greasy.
Yeah.
That's a lot of butter in these. Okay. So we're going to put these in the freezer to help them cool down a little bit faster. And then Catherine's going to show you how to make royal icing.
A room in the freezer?
I'm going to make room.
All right.
Okay.
Done.
Done. Okay, here are your... Yeah, the eggs are in there.
So do you want to switch sides?
Yeah, let's switch
Okay.
sides. Here's your stuff.
Cool.
You're welcome.
I need the eggs.
So, we're going to show you how to make royal icing. Royal icing is like, it'll harden when you're finished and you've put it on your cookie. It's going to get hard, but when you start, it'll be kind of liquidy. And so Catherine's going to show you how to make different consistencies, because when you decorate sugar cookies, the best way to do it is to outline your sugar cookie with a firm icing and then fill in the rest with a softer, more liquidy icing. And that's going to make the appearance really nice and flat without the icing actually falling over the edges of the cookie. So the first thing that Catherine's going to do is get her icing sugar and measure 3
Put it
cups. Oh, I got rid of all your cups.
You did. I'll go get
Sorry.
another one.
I was trying to be really good and clean and everything, but I was overzealous about it. Are there any 1 cups missing?
Not at all.
So you have to do half cups?
Yeah, I'll use half cups.
Okay. Catherine's going to very slowly measure 3 cups because we only have a half cup left, so she's actually going to do 6 scoops of icing sugar into her bowl. 6 cups. I'm going to check this other one. So while she's scooping, I'll explain more, I guess. So basically, royal icing has icing sugar, egg whites, or if you don't have egg whites, you can use meringue powder, and cream of tartar, which the cream of tartar stabilizes the egg white, so it helps it be more solid. And then this little tiny bowl here is when we start to change our consistency, we use a little bit of water to make it more runny, and if we make it too runny, then we'll add a little extra icing sugar. So Catherine's got her 3 cups of icing sugar measured, and now she's going to separate 2 eggs into 2 egg whites. I need 2 bowls. Here you go.
Thank you.
So she's gonna do the same technique that we did before with our cookie dough, making the yolk, but this time instead of saving the yolk, she's gonna save the egg whites instead. Now, you can also get pre-cartoned egg whites like at Walmart for like not very much money, which is a lot easier, and the egg whites are pasteurized, so they're a little safer if you want to eat them raw. They're not as, I mean, you'll probably be okay, but the reason we're using whole eggs is just that we got a generous donation of a lot of eggs, and we want to make sure that we use our donations as best as we possibly can. So we're just going to use that resource. But you can get the cartons. They're in the same aisle as the dairy products, like at Walmart or the grocery store. And then you can just measure out. It should say on the carton, I think that 2 tablespoons is roughly 1 egg, but it'll always say on the carton how much they are. And then if you really don't want to use plain egg whites, you can also use meringue powder and water. You can get meringue powder at the Bulk Barn. And during COVID, Bulk Barn has like an online ordering service that you can use to get exactly what you need.
Bowls?
Oh, yes, I did check. They're not done yet.
No. No.
Almost. Rebecca's
We
coming
just-
to
we
see if
just
her
had to
cookies
check
are
in to
done.
Make sure that the other cookies weren't burning, but that's okay.
Nope.
Smell them. They smell
Okay,
delicious.
so now she's gonna add her egg whites, and she was gonna add vanilla, but I spilled
But
it all.
Emily dumped it on me.
So it's just gonna be not as flavorful, but that's okay.
That's fine. It'll just taste like sugar, which honestly, even with vanilla, it usually
Is
does.
what it is, yeah. You could always add a different extract, I guess, with this if you wanted, right? You could use like
you could
lemon,
use- yeah.
almond, whatever you want.
Yeah.
Oh, thanks, Rebecca. Rebecca gave us some vanilla. That's so
how
nice.
much cream of tartar do I put in?
Oh, and then you're also gonna put in half a teaspoon of cream of tartar. I don't actually know what cream of tartar is made out of,
I have no idea what it's made out of, but it stabilizes the egg whites so that they set properly.
so it works.
That's all I know.
I think you also use cream
You
of
could
tartar
look it up, but
when you make meringue things. I'm pretty sure.
I don't when I make
Okay.
meringue, but you probably could.
Yeah, I think.
Some recipes probably call for it.
Yeah.
I just think we had a great learning opportunity there for everyone.
If you are short on an ingredient, you do have neighbors. Now you're gonna have to keep 6 feet away from them, but just knock on the door and say, "Hey, do you happen to have vanilla? Hey, do you happen to have?" And oftentimes neighbors do. There used to be a day I remember back when I was a wee lad, and if we were short of an egg or short of some milk, although we were never short of milk because I was a dairy farmer, we would simply go and ask a neighbor, and usually they had some flour or an extra egg, and we can still do that today. And actually,
Okay.
neighbors are very open to helping us have successful baking. So
Yes.
talk to a
good
neighbor.
call. You might have to exchange some cookies later as a thank you. And if you are a child on this video, make sure you let your mom or dad know that you're going to your neighbor's house. But definitely a good idea. It's a great way. I've noticed my neighbors during COVID actually want to hang out more. They want to know me more because everybody's kind of lonely and bored. So it's nice to have an excuse instead of just randomly walking up to someone and being like, I want to be friends. If you have a reason to go talk to them, then that always makes people more comfortable. Okay, so Catherine, how's your mixture looking?
It's looking really lumpy at this point.
Okay.
If it's getting too hard to mix, you can actually just start adding water right away. The other thing you can do if you really want, if you don't want to add more water, you can add a tiny bit more vanilla, But you just need to be careful adding extra vanilla because it has alcohol in it, which actually can dry out your icing a little bit.
So right now your consistency looks to me kind of like ice cream.
Yeah.
And what are you going for to start?
So it needs to be kind of like smooth. I mean, to start, it's smooth. It'll be smooth, but it'll have these stiff, like peaks. If I pulled my knife out, they would stand up, but it wouldn't look dry. So it looks kind of dry right now still, and you don't want it to look dry.
Can you angle it just so we can see what it looks like right now? Yeah, we can see that. That's great.
So this part, honestly, it just takes a lot of like mixing it around. Try different tools. You can use spatulas. You can use a knife. Like I've pulled out a cheese knife. If you have an icing knife, they actually work quite well. Yeah, different tools. Not everybody likes using the same tools, so it just depends on what works for you. And when it comes to adding water, add a very, very small amount at a time because it will thin very, very quickly. And you don't want to over thin it.
And Catherine, when I practiced these, I made a bowl of stiff icing and a bowl of thin icing. Is there a way to do it where you can just use one bowl of icing?
So what I normally would do at home is I make up my icing and it starts out very, very thick. Mm-hmm. I will portion it. I'll take like half a dozen bowls and I portion it out because I mix like a lot of colors when I'm doing this. And I will leave some very, very thick. And I will do anything that I'm going to do in the thicker type of icing. So there's certain things like outlines that you would do in the thicker icing. I do that all first, and then I go through and I thin all my colors with water after. But honestly, you are going to dirty a lot of bowls if you're using colors and stuff. Mm-hmm. It's just the way it works, but you don't have to make 2 batches. You can do it all from 1 batch.
Okay. Is there like a rule of thumb if you wanted to know if it's thick enough or thin enough for what you're using?
Yes. So there is what is known as like the seconds rule. So what would happen is as it starts to thin out, you would stick your like a knife, or even you could take a toothpick and run it through, and you would count how long it takes for it to settle back down into a smooth, like even layer, and that would be how many seconds the set time is. So like 20 second, 10 second. Some people even have as few as 2 second, which has a purpose, but it takes a lot of practice using the thinner icing. And so all that means is if it's 20-second icing, it's going to set before it actually ever settles back down into a smooth layer. Where if it's 5-second or 2-second, it will more likely settle into a smooth layer before the icing itself sets.
So where you're at right now, what are you thinking about your icing?
Well, it needs to be thin still because like this is not going to settle at all. Like
right.
Again, it's fairly thick still. It is thinning though. It takes a lot of time, and when I do this at home, I actually use a spray bottle for the water because it's easier to control the amount of water you're adding to your icing. And again, like I said, like it'll thin very, very quickly, and you don't want to over thin it because there's what is known as like flooding consistency. So that's usually like a 2-second icing to settle down. And that is, you would take something maybe not quite this thick, you would do your outlines, and then you would take the flooding consistency and pipe it in, and it will actually settle into a really smooth, even layer, and it just looks really nice when it's done. But if you don't outline your cookies first, it just turns into a really big mess.
And that would be how my cookies typically turn out when I try to ice them. I tend to flood them.
Yeah, and that's the reason why I made some with these windows is that when we get to actually frosting the cookies, if your icing's really thick, or if you don't have anything that helps you pipe them on or you just don't want to, you can also just spread some thick icing on a flat one and then put one of these ones with a hole on top. And so a little bit of icing will just show through the middle. These are really hot, so I'm gonna put them down. But you know what I'm saying. And then you can sprinkle little sprinkles in the middle if you want or whatever. But that's like an alternative to outlining and avoiding flooding if you want. But the way that I did those ones is what Catherine's talking about. So it's up to you what you'd like to do. Once we have our icing ready, we'll show you a few ways that you can frost your icing.
It's getting there. Like, so you can already see it is loosening up. It looks more like frosting, less like Play-Doh. Because at the beginning it definitely like, I mean, it would be much tastier Play-Doh, but.
So with that in mind, back to my earlier question about making snowman cookies, could we just make snowman icing balls? on
You
top of it?
could.
Yeah.
And it would hold, it wouldn't turn into mush?
It would turn hard. It would be hard to eat.
There's also something, I don't know if you know what fondant is.
Oh, yes, yeah.
So it's used in a lot of cake decorating, but I have
You
a
don't use that for
recipe.
wrapping paper?
Yeah, but
It's like
it
edible
won't
wrapping
make it.
paper,
I
thought.
mean,
It
yeah,
won't travel
but-
very well.
And everything would stick to it.
You'd have to cover
Um,
your box with frosting first.
Yeah, but I've got a
That sounds
recipe
very
that
tasty.
uses marshmallows to
Yeah,
make fondant.
Same.
Oh, yeah.
Super easy too. Like it's so easy, but it also would make great snowmen and probably a little bit tastier than.
Yeah, than that. Because this is more for decorating.
Yeah.
It's really sweet and it gets really hard when it's done. So fondant would definitely, especially marshmallow fondant.
Yeah.
I find marshmallow fondant tastes better than the store-bought fondant, and it's cheaper.
Store-bought fondant's disgusting.
It's
Well,
gross.
Yeah, I've never actually liked fondant. when
Probably
I-
because you're eating store-bought fondant.
Yeah, marshmallow
Okay.
fondant is decent.
Yeah.
Yeah, because I've tried fondant, like cakes with fondant. It's like, what is that?
Yeah.
It's like rubber.
It
tasteless.
honestly is. So like, yeah, so factory cakes or like if a baker is using pre-made fondant, it's got a lot of preservatives in it and a lot of things to make it feel soft and fresh for a really long time. So it has like a better shelf life, which makes it look really nice and it's really easy to work with because it's like pre-mixed colors and it's the perfect consistency right off the bat. And so it's favored for that purpose. So sometimes like at weddings and stuff, you'll see a really beautiful cake, but then when you go to eat it, the top layer doesn't taste very good. It's because the baker's choosing something to look perfect and not so much about the taste, which is okay if that's the purpose of the event, that's fine. But if you want something that tastes good, it's better to make it fresh yourself because most pre-purchased things have preservatives and additives to make them have a higher shelf life.
And honestly, when you start looking into it, it's so much cheaper and fairly simple to make a lot of these things on your own.
Yeah.
So it just makes more sense. I can pay $15 for fondant at the store, or I can make it myself for like $3.
Yeah, because I think homemade fondant just has marshmallows, vanilla, icing
icing
sugar, and water.
Yeah.
It's like, yeah, $5 tops.
Yeah, like it's super easy, and I think it makes more than you get when you buy it at the store too. So I'm getting, I don't know what everybody else is at, but mine's getting much thinner. You can see like it's gonna fall off my knife now instead of looking like a solid mass. When it's this thick, I would probably say this is about a 60-second icing. So it would take a long time to settle, and it probably won't at all. If you use it on your cookies in this stage, it'll look very lumpy and bumpy. Depending on what look you're going for or what you're piping onto them, you may want this, but I don't usually use anything more than like a 30-second set.
Yeah, I suppose lumpy and bumpy is a look.
Yeah, like the exos that I did on my hard cookies though, that's about that consistency. So it'll make like strong, thick lines. So like I use it for, after I've done the smooth, like drippy icing and I've let it harden, then I can use my thicker one to draw stuff on top. Or you could just literally draw stuff on top and not worry about
So that would
covering
be
it.
about this consistency. That would be good for piping words, letters, or outlines. And as a matter of fact, do you want to grab me a bowl? I'm going to separate some out now because I will just thin it right down to the thinner consistency as well.
I don't know how many you want.
Yeah, one for now.
Okay, I'll just put this here.
If you're going to separate any of your icing out, there are a couple things you can do because it starts to dry out very, very quickly. You can either wrap whatever bowl you're using in saran wrap, or you can put just a damp tea towel or paper towel over top to keep moisture in it, because as soon as it's sitting exposed to air and not being moved around, it starts to set right away. I'll let you do that.
What am I doing?
You want to put some saran on that?
Saran?
Yeah.
Oh.
Yeah, it keeps it from setting.
Okay. Yeah.
And that allows, like, if you're using colors, we don't have any food coloring, so we're just going for plain white today. But if you were mixing up a bunch of colors ahead of time, like, you would want to probably mix them all at once, so that's where you would want to wrap it so that it doesn't set on you while you're mixing the rest of your colors.
What would be your worst experience baking? What is sort of the worst thing that could happen while you're baking, and could you share an experience?
I made muffins once, and so I had, at the time I was buying all my flour and stuff at Bulk Barn. So I bought like baking soda, tapioca flour, like, because that was the cheapest place to get all my gluten-free flours. And I thought I was using rice flour in my muffins, and it turns out it was baking soda. So they came out of the oven looking amazing. They tasted awful. They were so gross.
One time when I was working at the bakery, I was in charge of making cookies, and like a lot at once, and I forgot to add the flour. And so when they came out, it was just, the pan was just full of all, like, the whole thing was just filled with something. It wasn't anything real. It tasted really good, but it wasn't sellable, and I got in a lot of trouble. It's very expensive to make mistakes when you work for a bakery.
My sister once made macaroons, like with coconut, and they ran out of coconut. They were at my grandma's, and they ran out of coconut, and my grandma thought she had more coconut in the cupboard, and they thought they found it, and it was rice.
Oh no!
So they made these like macaroons, and it was really just chocolate-coated rice. So as you add more water, as you can see, it gets way easier to mix. It becomes more fluid, so it'll like drip faster. This is a pretty good thickness. I would go just a little bit thinner if you want it to be a really smooth, like even coat when you put it onto your cookie. But this is a pretty reasonable consistency if you're getting impatient and tired of waiting for it to be thin enough.
I'm gonna see if we have any sprinkles to decorate these ones with.
Okay.
We have score bits.
You probably have chocolate chips too.
Yeah, but they're not small.
Oh, okay.
I'm gonna
so
use
that's
score
probably-
bits. I feel like it's gonna taste good.
Score bits will be delicious. So this is a good consistency for a flooding. It flows really easily. It moves. It's not gonna look really lumpy. Yeah, that's about what you're going for. You could thin it a little bit more, but also the other thing is the thinner It is. The longer it will take to set on your cookies, which means the longer it'll take to get to eating your cookies. If you're really patient, that's fine. If you're impatient, you may want to leave it a little thicker. Are you ready?
Yeah.
Okay.
Which one do I get, or do I separate some?
Well, you can just take some. Like,
Okay.
yeah. So there are a lot of different ways you can do the icing. You can spread it on with a knife, or you can pipe it on. Like if you have icing tips and piping bags, that'll work. What I do at home is I just use Ziploc bags. So I'll put a bunch into a Ziploc bag and make sure it's all squeezed down into one corner. And I just cut a really small hole in the corner of the Ziploc bag. And that usually works really well.
Sorry. I'm going to do the butter knife thing. And I'm using the thicker icing for that.
The thing to keep in mind, Ziploc bags do get very messy. It goes everywhere. It's kind of just a part of doing this. So when you put it in the Ziploc bag, you want it all in one corner. And the other thing you want to do is when you seal the Ziploc bag, if you can seal the Ziploc bag.
When you
I am
try-
challenged today with
when-
Ziploc bags. Anyways, you want to try and squeeze all the air out because it'll actually make piping it easier. I don't know why I'm having such a problem with this, but.
Are you okay?
Yeah, I got it.
Okay.
So this is my thicker consistency. So to pipe it, you're probably going to want to cut a little bit bigger of a hole because it's going to be harder to squeeze out. But there's just a hole in the tip, it'll squeeze out, and you can just pipe it right onto your cookies. So I'll move things and use this one. And you can just, like, I would use this for outlining. And you can literally, like, it just stays in place. Sometimes it'll break a little bit like that. You can just go back over it. So this is good, like Emily said, it's good for words, letters, anything like that. If you want to do any details, it's good for that. And then the thinner consistency would be what I would use to fill that in. So that will set very, very fast. Sometimes you get little, like, pointy peaks like that. You can just push them down with your finger once it starts to set. Or you can leave them if you don't care. That's an option. Not everybody is bothered by that stuff, so.
And what I did was just spread on some thick icing and then put a window on top. And then I filled in the hole with, I have score bits in my kitchen, so that's what I use. But you could also just leave it plain or put whatever you want in there.
So it's a double layer cookie.
Yeah. This would be a good one to split maybe with someone in your house. It's very big, but very tasty.
Or you can make them with smaller cookies. That's also
Yeah, with smaller cookies would be better probably.
an option.
I just did this for fun. And you can see, like, this is what it would look like if you just used that thick icing by itself. So that's okay. It's very edible and tasty. You could put sprinkles on it if you want, but if you want that nice, flat, smooth look, then you should follow Catherine's instructions.
So this is my thinner icing. You don't need nearly as big a hole for this one. I would just go for like a pin size hole because it actually will start to flow really, really quickly. And it depends again, I would actually go a little bigger than that. Because I want it to cover like the whole surface of my cookie. And then I just pipe it out. I use the tip of my bag. You can also use toothpicks to like help spread it. You can use your finger if you really want. There's actually really no real rules around this, so it's up to what you like, what you're comfortable with. But yeah, and it just gives a really nice, smooth looking finish.
So beautiful.
And for the most part, like there's some peaks in it. You can see right now, a lot of those will settle before the cookie itself actually fully sets. Be careful with the thin stuff though. When you set it down, sometimes it'll like just flow out of the bag everywhere.
Yeah, that happened to me when I was practicing this.
Every time.
I had
every
a
time.
puddle of icing at the end.
Yeah, my table will end up just like coated in icing.
Do you have any more thin icing that I can use?
Yeah.
Okay.
I have lots.
Oh, I was gonna get my own bag.
You can squeeze some into your own bag.
Okay. Oh, you're so smart. Wow, this is why I keep
I'll
Catherine
take the
around.
compliment.
She thinks for me sometimes. I'm gonna decorate some of the other ones. Rebecca, did you make frost icing? Huh? Oh. Here you go. Can't do anything. Oh, yeah.
This is the fun part, but it's actually way more fun if you have colors to use.
True.
It's also more fun if you have more variation in the shapes that you made your cookies in.
I feel like we don't have enough icing for all of our cookies.
You'd be amazed. It stretches often pretty far, but
Oh, really?
yeah.
Oh. Good to know.
The other thing is if we run out of the thin stuff, we can take some of the thicker stuff and thin it down again.
Okay. I'm going to attempt to do what Catherine's doing. Emphasis on attempt.
So you'll see like this one has already, like there were quite a few peaks on it and a lot of them have settled in already. They don't look perfect, but they do, for the most part, they smooth out pretty much completely all the way.
Yeah.
And again, if you really don't like those peaks, you can just take your finger and flatten them down a little bit. But they don't affect the flavor of your cookies, so.
Trying to do a really tiny hole. Okay. I wonder if anyone who's making these has a certain special someone that they're making them for. Anyone have a Valentine this weekend? A COVID Valentine? Doorbell. Someone's here.
So the question that Emily put out there for us, do we have a COVID Valentine that we're making these cookies for? Maybe our parents, maybe that brother that we just think the world of, or that sister we think the world of, grandparent, neighbor,
I think I made
or
mine
a
too small.
secret admirer.
Yeah, a little.
Okay. I don't know if this person's watching, and I won't use her name on camera, but somebody reached out to me this weekend asking for pictures of her with a certain someone from back in the day at YFC. And I don't know what she's planning, but it's awfully convenient timing with Valentine's Day coming up. And don't worry, I haven't forgotten about you. Mine's not spreading out very much, so I'm just using a knife. Is that okay?
You can use whatever you want.
Okay.
There's no rules.
Actually, you know what I'm gonna use?
What?
I'm gonna use a toothpick. Just spread it out. So so that I don't knock it out of the thick line. I feel like it's taking a long time, but perfection, you have to sacrifice for perfection.
See, so what I do is I actually like get ahead of myself. I will make cookies at home, and I will make like a triple or quadruple batch of cookies because I'm just like, I want to decorate cookies. I don't even care about eating them. I just want to decorate them. And then it takes me 2 or 3 days to decorate that many cookies.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Especially because, like, if you want to do layers, you have to let the first layer dry. Yeah, they're in. That's yours, Rebecca. Sorry. We're running out of room in our kitchen. What? Where did they go? They're in the other side. Yeah, there.
So decorating is fun, but it does take a lot of time, which means you must really care about the people you're making these cookies for.
Yeah.
A lot of love goes into these cookies.
Hence the Valentine's theme. Oh, thank you. I'm gonna have to steal more frosting from Catherine, though. I'm running low. I only took a really small amount.
Want to pass me some of those ones? I'm going to sandwich them.
Ooh. I don't know why I missed that one. Sorry. All but one.
All but one.
Oh, how long does this frosting take to set?
Usually it sets in a matter of seconds.
Okay.
Sometimes, again, the thinner consistency will take longer to set.
Mm-hmm.
So sometimes that one takes closer to a minute. But even so, I think this is the first one I did. And you already see, so if you push in, it does dent in. You'll want to give it longer. But it's already hardening on top. This is the first one in the hard frosting I did. So these are already solid to touch. Now you want to let it like sit probably a couple of hours to be properly fully set. But in terms of like being able to move them around or touch them, add other colors if you're adding more colors, within like 30 to 60 seconds you can start on like adding extras to it.
Let's say you wanted to put a stack of them in a Ziploc for your neighbor. You'd probably want to leave them for...
I leave them overnight.
Oh, overnight. Okay.
I don't know if they necessarily, like probably, a couple of hours is plenty, but I like to leave them overnight just to make sure that they're good and set. Because I think, personally, there'd be nothing more disappointing than opening them and finding that they've all, like...
Been mushed.
Or, like, I did a bunch at Christmas to give it as Christmas presents, and I have a llama cookie cutter, and the llama's heads kept falling off.
Oh, no.
So I had to go through before I gave them out and pull out the beheaded llamas so that I wasn't giving people, like, destroyed cookies.
Yeah, I got a llama from you.
Did it have a head?
It had a head, but then I
Then
did
you ate
carry
it?
it home. And then I did, yeah. Actually, that one didn't get eaten as quickly because everyone in my house, it was so beautiful that nobody wanted to eat it because they were like, oh, it's so pretty. But yeah, it was very
funny.
tasty. And that one that you made was gluten-free, right?
Yes.
You couldn't tell. Like,
You can't.
it tasted like normal cookies to me.
You really can't tell. Yeah. I've had people that are like, oh yeah, I know. And I'm like, you only know because I told you. The other ones that kept falling apart at Christmas time were my unicorns. I have a unicorn cookie cutter and they kept breaking right in half. And the
Oh.
horns were falling off.
Oh no. And was that because, like, was it from, do you think that the cookie should have been thicker, or like what?
I probably should have done them a little thicker. I think there was something I forgot to put in until I was like starting to roll them out. Then I forgot that, put everything back in the bowl and added it and mixed it, but I probably just didn't mix it enough.
Makes sense. Dollars and cents. That's just an ad lib. Don't you ever just sing things that people say?
Yes.
Yeah. See,
Yeah, you.
I knew it. I knew it.
And I whistle a lot.
Yeah, it's very normal. Everyone does it. I'm do some very small. I need to steal some icing.
The thin stuff? Right
This
there.
is the thin one.
Yep.
Okay. But yes, one time my cousin asked me to make her baby shower cookies, and I didn't give myself enough time to ice them, and they were like, they tasted good, but they were not like the pictures that she sent me at all. So you definitely, it's like an activity. This is an activity. If you have a free afternoon and you're kind of bored, this is the activity to do.
Yeah. Yeah, I have to make sure I leave myself lots of time when I decide to do this.
Or you can, I guess, do it in stages. That's what I did.
Sometimes I do them,
When I
and then
practice.
a couple days later I'll come back and ice them, and like, yeah.
How long do these cookies last, like on the counter?
Well, my recipe, I don't know about these ones for sure. I've kept them for 2 to 3 weeks, and they've still tasted completely fine.
Oh, really?
Yeah. Especially like when I'm doing them for Christmas. Like I did them at Christmas for like a bunch of people. I had to make them way in advance because it was so time consuming to decorate them all. And so I just put them in Ziploc bags and stored them on the counter. And I think, yeah, like 3 weeks we ate some and they still tasted completely fine.
Oh, nice.
Yeah.
Can I have some more of your firm icing?
Here you go.
Thank you. My grandma would always freeze cookies. She'd never set them on the counter, and I always wondered if, like, because I don't freeze them, but I was like, oh, maybe that's what you're supposed to do.
They do keep longer if you do that. If you're gonna eat them, like if you're planning on eating them as soon as you've made them, it's not necessary. But
like within a few days. That's
yeah, yeah. But if you want them to keep a little longer, you can do that for sure.
right, and I guess putting them in something that keeps the air out
Yeah.
will help too. These are so little. Oh no, I have an air bubble. Okay, this is a teachable moment. If like your bag is making popping sounds, it's because there's air bubbles in there. So you just squish it with your fingers, massage it all out. It'll make your lines, I don't know if you can see because it's a very small cookie, but you can see how my lines stopped and started. That's because an air bubble stopped the icing from coming out. It's still happening.
Yeah. Sometimes, like, I don't know, sometimes I find it just does.
Oh, there. It just needed to toot a little bit. Let out the air.
So once again, we've heard a technical term, baking term from Emily. Sometimes
Toot.
your icing bakes toot.
Yeah.
Just let your icing bake have a little toot, and then it'll be
And
fine.
it's okay. It's okay if they toot sometimes.
Then it gets over itself.
So, a summary of our technical terms of the day: squishy, floofy, and toot.
At least, well, 2 of those are real words.
Yeah, Sam, my husband, invented the word floofy. He's probably not watching, so I can talk about him. It means, floofy means when you're feeling kind of like listless or floppy and you're not tired enough to go to sleep, but you're not really awake enough to do anything and you're kind of just bored and like, he calls that floofy. And I don't really know why, but that's what he calls it. And he said it so much to me that now it's in my head, and to me it's a normal word. Just like if you have little brothers and sisters and they talk funny, but you know what they're saying, it's kind of the same thing. He has lots of other words.
That are real.
That are not real. When he says you're being a toots, what he means is you're being annoying, but it's cute, and I'm not mad at you, but I want to point out to you that you're doing something annoying.
But other people may not like it as much.
Yeah. It only works if you both agree to use the language. I don't know. I have lots of weird words with people. I'm trying to think of another word he uses. He's got a weird vocabulary, that's for sure. Pepperoni, that's our dog. That's not her real name, that's just a name he invented.
Oh, nice.
Pepperoni and pup.
There's a dog treat called pepperonis.
Oh, really?
Yeah, I
Oh.
wouldn't give them to your dog, though. They're kind of like full of a lot of chemicals.
Yeah, she's like a very spoiled dog. She's on like a grain-free diet. She only eats all natural treats. She gets like 4 walks a day and a bath every other week. She has 4 beds. I have 1 bed, but she has 4. And she sometimes still comes and sleeps in our bed, even though she's got 4 of her own.
My dogs have a beanbag chair, so.
Nice.
We got it as a wedding gift. It was like a double beanbag chair. We thought it was cool at the time because we were 19 and 20.
And now you're like, ooh.
It's not as cool, but my dog loves it, so.
Do your dogs cuddle? Like, do they sleep together ever?
Yeah.
Or, okay.
Well, one usually sleeps in my bed,
Mm-hmm.
and the other usually sleeps in the beanbag, and then halfway through the night they switch. But they will cuddle, like during the day they'll both sleep. I have a chair. I have a couch too, but they sit in the chair together all the time.
Oh,
I
that's
don't know
nice.
why they sit in the chair though.
They
There's
want
a
to be
couch.
friends. They want to be as close together as possible.
Yeah.
I'm almost done.
I have one more apparently that I missed.
I'm pretty much out of icing.
I'm almost out.
Probably do. I can't really do any more. I really do one more. I think with this plain white icing, I kind of wish that I had sprinkles because I think that would look really cool.
Yeah. I have so many at home. I could have brought some.
I
But
know.
I didn't think about it. I have a problem. I buy a lot of sprinkles.
Yeah, people buy them for me.
I have unicorn-shaped ones
Aw.
and skull-shaped ones.
Are they like those mixes that you get at Bulk Brand that have like the different color?
I buy them at Dollar Tree, but yeah, they're the same kind.
Oh, Dollar Tree.
But the unicorn ones are actually just like unicorn-shaped like candies, and the same with the skull ones.
Mm.
And I have some mixes, and then I just have some like boring sprinkles that are like, I don't know, like they're the typical sprinkle.
They rag.
They're like the rainbow sprinkles, like the long, like.
Oh yeah. I like the circle rainbow sprinkles. Those are my
I have
favorite.
those too.
I like the taste the best.
Do they taste different?
To me, they do. They probably don't. It's my brain.
Oh my god, I've never.
They don't.
noticed.
They probably don't. It's just me.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. And I like the colored sugar.
I like that too. I use a lot of that.
Well,
We're done.
we're done. We still have some cookies left, but we ran out of icing, and we're not going to make you watch us making icing again. But we hope you enjoyed making cookies with us today. You can always rewatch this video. If you have any problems with the technology, just let us know, and we will try to help you out. And then starting next Friday, if you're part of our Hub Harvest program, we're going to be doing a crock pot. Every Friday morning, we will show you how to put together a crock pot that you can sign on to the same live stream for. So, yeah, enjoy the cookies and let us know if you have any questions, and we'll hopefully see you again. Thanks, guys. Bye. Oh my gosh, my throat just started to like